Hey, everybody. My name is Jonathan Core, and in today's marketing talk, I have the pleasure of speaking to the marketing and relationship manager for one of Inc. 5000's fastest growing companies, Holmberg Mechanical in Bellevue, Washington. My guest today, Angela White, has 15 years of corporate marketing experience working in the construction and financial industries. She and her husband, Jeff, were also recently featured in Bloomberg Business Week, Entrepreneur, and Fortune magazines in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for hopping on this call, Angela.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. Good to see you.
Likewise. So let's kick this off right away. So, we were chatting a little bit about the pandemic before we officially hit record on this conversation that we're having today. And so my initial question usually is the same one with a lot of guests, given we're currently in the pandemic, is how are you doing? How is Holmberg doing? And how is just the team in general doing during during these unprecedented times?
That is the question of the day, for sure. We are doing well. Our projects are up and running. We're back in the office and we're hiring again, which is great. We have a lot of promising work coming up, so we're excited to get that started. And we just did a COVID testing day last Friday in our parking lot. We tested 70 people, employees, clients, and then neighbors. And it went really well, and it was great because it's part of our culture to care about the health of everyone and to be part of the solution for everything. So it was nice to see people, and it's all right now with marketing. It's all about celebrating every win, no matter how small. Just kind of reinvigorates the culture. It gives you a purpose, and it's also great content for social media.
Yeah, totally. 100% agree. And it's honestly really encouraging to see other marketers and really businesses, either starting to do well or doing well during these times, just because there's a lot of people who are furloughed. There's a lot of people who have
Yes.
gone through a lot of stuff with the actual pandemic. And so, although we want to be empathetic during these troubling times, it's also good to hear of good news that, we're moving in the right direction despite still being in the midst of it. So I'm going to segue this conversation. So the goal of this conversation really is to unpack your career, unpack your story within marketing. And so what I want to do is wind the clock back to college days. So I was looking on your LinkedIn, and you are a graduate from the Washington State University, and you majored in
Mhm.
marketing. My initial question is, why marketing? And also because obviously I've met other marketers who have a degree in marketing who ended up not staying in marketing, and I have other people who majored
Yeah.
in something else but ended up in marketing. So why back then did you decide going the route of marketing?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is rare to in this industry for whatever reason to actually have a marketing degree and continue to do marketing 15 years or whatever later after I graduated. I have a family member who is a marketer, and at 20 I was undecided. I just didn't know. I knew business somewhere, but I wasn't really inspired by economics or accounting classes. And my cousin's wife said, "You need to focus on marketing. It's your personality. You support sales. It's fun. It's creative." And I just thought, I have nothing left, I have nothing to lose. Let's go for it. And I took my first marketing class, and it was consumer behavior. I'll never forget. And I sat in the classroom, and it was this like warm blanket of comfort. This is where I'm supposed to be. And once I found my niche, I excelled and did really well in school, and I've enjoyed it as my career ever since. It's been fun.
Yeah. So would you mind sharing? So let's say fresh out of not high school, fresh out of college, after getting your degree in marketing, what was that first opportunity or job within marketing, and really how did that actually transpire? How did that come about?
Mm. I was so desperate for any job. I wanted to move to a different city. I wanted to meet new people and explore the world. And so I just started applying for different jobs in Seattle, San Francisco, just wherever the world was going to take me. And a friend of mine from school recruited me to the company that he was working for. It's called Tom James, and they sell custom clothing, so suits and shirts and things like that. And it was a combination of selling, marketing. This is when everyone had a MySpace page. So social media really wasn't a thing yet, but it was cold calling and using a CRM and a lot of the theories of what we had talked about in class. I also did a 3-part sales course certificate through WSU that I did really well in. So I applied those skills. But still, there's nothing that really gets you ready for your first job. The hours were totally different than college life, but it was, you're worried that you're going to make a mistake and everything. And then once you get comfortable and kind of get in your groove, then you start seeing, your sales go up and good things happen.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was recruited by a client who said, I think you would do really well in construction. I have a project manager role available, and it was for an insurance restoration construction company. And so my projects were if someone's house caught on fire or flooded, I was the project manager to piece it all back together for them. And that was my first exposure to construction, and I learned a lot from that. And then I also was doing the marketing for the company too to help get business outside of insurance claims.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to touch on a little bit is sales. You mentioned you taken a 3-part course at Wazoo. You obviously had hands-on experience in your first job. What was your approach towards sales? Did you like it from the beginning, from the get-go, or were you more resistant? Reason I ask is I've talked to several marketers who initially did not like sales, but over the years have grown to like it. So I'm curious, what was your experience like initially when you first started in sales?
Ooh, I was so technical. I was so by the book. They gave us scripts and marketing collateral to work with, and I just remember line item by being very deliberate with things and not letting things happen naturally. So I was not good at it at first, and luckily I had a support staff there of seasoned salespeople who took me under their wing and really helped me. And after observing how they did things, that really helped a lot with my nerves and just how to talk with people and how to do things. So it was very intimidating at first, but then once I got comfortable, it was a lot easier. So
that's really insightful. I remember, man, when they made us cold call, I think you mentioned cold calling earlier. That was not fun, but learning over the years, it's like it's changed, and it's interesting your perspective on sales. Like if your goal is to sell someone something, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. If your goal is to help someone, I think that mindset shift helps a lot more. So I'm glad you shared that. So so you mentioned you started there, then you eventually worked for the construction company. That was your first experience in construction. Then later on, you worked for it looks like is it a mortgage or something in finance?
Yes.
Yeah. So something in finance. Now you're currently at Holmberg, which is the construction industry again. And so I'm curious, having experienced both where you were at first in construction and then even in the financial sector, were there many differences in your approach to marketing for both, or were they more similar than they weren't?
That's a good question. When I was with Eagle Home Mortgage, I was on a marketing department of 22 other marketers. So it was very specified roles, and you were painted in a box. This is what you're going to do. And there's not a lot of overlap with things. That was a large company, fairly new, and it was, B2C really. And then our Holmberg is we're well established. We're B2B. We've been around since 1949. But what's similar about them is it's a service that we're selling. We're not selling like a product like a tangible product. So that was nice to see the similarities for that. So and then again, you're right. It's all about helping people and coming up with solutions to their problems as painlessly as we can. And mortgage was a good lesson for that too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bet. And honestly, like the way you and I initially got connected through was through social media and seeing obviously the amount of marketing that Holmberg's doing, which segues great into my next question, which is, you've played a significant role with, being at Holmberg and really representing their brand and the company and the culture. So my question is, I've seen a lot, like I mentioned, the Bloomberg Entrepreneur and
Yeah.
Fortune magazines. Those are great, PR opportunities. Also, too, you've had a lot of great marketing partnerships with, I can't remember what the company's called, but they sell some sort of equipment, boots or something like that. And then you guys did like
Yeah,
a,
Georgia boot.
yeah.
Yes.
And so my
Hmm.
question is, what has been your process specifically to really put Holmberg on the map and, up and coming, obviously Inc. 5000, that there's a lot of PR aspects to Holmberg that really have been lifting and growing within the company. So how has your process been and how have you approached both the PR and marketing partnership opportunities?
Yeah, it's been one of those things where since I'm the only one in the department, I don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of really. And a lot of what I've done is just throwing stuff against a wall and seeing what sticks. And a lot of what we've done has stuck, which I'm pleased for, but there have been some flops that I don't need to mention on here. But they're all learning experiences, and so everything that I'm doing, I'm either celebrating the win or I'm learning from, and it's helping me with my mindset for new ideas moving forward. The but for so we did a photo shoot with Georgia Boot and Majestic Glove last year, and it was basically just saying, hey, I really like what you guys are doing. I think that you have great products. Our guys and ladies in the field use what you're selling. If you ever need models, let me know. And they were both positive responses. So, and kind of, I guess a little bit of a cold call email. I looked at their website and their social media to make sure that that was in line with with our values. And I think they both turned out really well. And the fact that our plumbers and tinners are models, they're beards, tattoos, buff guys and ladies out there, that, and to see them in the walls in our office and to see them on billboards and national catalogs is cool. It's just, I don't think anyone's really done that before. And I'm happy I love trying weird ideas.
Mhm.
So it took more convincing to let the plumbers be models than it did for Georgia Boot to be on board with us. They were all like, wait a minute, do I have to? Like, what are my options here? And they said, we'll give you a free pair of boots. And then that magically kind of made things easier for them to swallow. So
Yeah, for sure. No, that's super funny, especially when a plumber, or yeah, a plumber's applying for the jobs. Like, I didn't know model was in the job description.
yes, I know. And then, we blew up the pictures that were in the catalogs. And when they come in the office, I make them autograph it. And you can see them blush a little bit. It's cute, but it's, not your typical day at the office when there's a camera crew filming you at your job. So
Yeah,
it's
for
good stuff.
sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
and you mentioned something I actually want to touch on a little bit because I was in a similar boat with the previous company I was at where we initially met, and it's really like, and I think you can really shine some light on this, given you came
Mhm.
from, is it Eagle Home Mortgage? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
perfect. So saying you come from a marketing team of 20, so obviously it's established,
Yeah.
it's growing. Now being in a one marketing department person wearing all these different hats, having to run everything. I'm sure when it initially started was more ambiguous than not. And so my question to you is, what type of personality or characteristics as a marketer do you need to have in order to thrive in a one man band environment versus
Mm.
being alongside a group of marketers?
I would say, depending on where you're focusing, it kind of that plays a role into it. So when I'm doing event marketing, marketing collateral, career fair marketing, things like that, you have to be very extroverted, you have to be assertive, you need to know what your plan is, and and also get others to buy into what your plan is, because typically you're working with other people for something like that. So that I have to really get myself out there, pushed out of my comfort zone, and let people know what the plan is and get them on board.
Yeah.
But for other things like digital marketing and social media and press releases, it helps to be a little more introverted and being able to kind of escape the noise so you can craft your content in a way that you're not letting other people dictate what you eventually write. It has to come from you. It has to come from your marketing and PR mindset for it to work. So it's kind of, yeah, I'm wearing a lot of hats, but I'm also dipping into different parts of my personality, and depending on the task, that's where I find myself. So it's good. It's constantly challenging this way, though.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you gave a few good illustrations, specifically what types of marketers do well in that scenario. It's people, who can really take initiative and obviously create something out of nothing or come up with the ideas, because it's like outside of being the strategic side of marketing, you have to actually be the implementer as well. You have to get the buy-in from leadership. There's so many touch points that you have that you're involved in, which is, although it is fulfilling, it is fun for the right person, it could also be very daunting. It could seem like a lot. So I'm glad you gave those illustrations, because I really think that encompasses more specific what types of people need to be in that role versus what types of people do well maybe in a team of 20, 50, 100, etc.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned digital marketing, you mentioned PR, you mentioned event planning, you obviously do business development, social media. Where do you currently feel like your sweet spot in marketing out of all those? Like what's Angela's, like, what are you best at across the span of marketing, and why do you believe so?
I would say right now my sweet spot is social media. I think that's going really well. Our Instagram just hit 1K followers, which we're excited about. And it's all because it's a collaborative effort from the company. So we do a photo contest every year, which I highly recommend, because it gives an opportunity for people to use their creative side and take pictures of the projects they're working on. And then it helps me because I don't have to go to all of the job sites, and I can kind of focus energies elsewhere. And then I kind of see it as the yearbook, and it's like my love letter to Holmberg, that I'm collecting all of these milestones and celebrations and events in our lives to share with other people, so people understand our culture and our values better. And I think it's also a sense of pride. If you're happy with what you're working on enough to take a picture of it and send it to someone so they can share with the world, that's a pretty special thing. So I feel very, I'm honored to be trusted with our external presence. And a lot of the ways, it's a lot of the first impression that people have of our company. So and each one is different. LinkedIn is different than Facebook, than Instagram. And I've been putting more videos on YouTube during the quarantine, which has been really fun. So it's kind of neat to see all these different levels of our personality, some very professional and some very silly. And you have to, and that's us. We're really professional. We need to be. And then we also have a funny, joking side that helps us get through the stressful times.
Yeah, for sure. And for those of you who are watching, I want you to know, because I have a background as well in construction conventionally doesn't, and you can piggyback off of this, or maybe even counter, or maybe play devil's advocate. But from my perspective, construction isn't super social media, isn't super digital marketing focused. And so a lot of the things we talk about, maybe in tech, maybe in other industries, are kind of the standard. This is how it's expected. Normally and traditionally in construction, it is hard to one, get leadership to buy into it, because, they're like,
Mhm.
well, nobody else needs to know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Our clients do. But it all paints a bigger picture of what what type of company you are, because especially for social media, it's not only customer acquisition or showing the partnerships that we have. It's also to selling the future plumbers, the future painters, the future tradesmen, tradeswomen, why you should work with our company as opposed to any other company. And so I think social media
Exactly.
is a powerful way. But I want to get your feedback on that. What are your thoughts on construction and marketing, and also to like just some of the things you've noticed, and also to how Holmberg is looking to take a different route, and really separate from the rest of the industry?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're different because marketing matters here. I think that I know that there are construction companies in our area where um, they're afraid to show what they're doing because they consider it a trade secret. And we don't. We want to share it. We want to like I said, celebrating what's going well. And the best way to do that is to let everyone know about it, not just in a company communication like a newsletter or something like that. So yeah, and then also it's how you use your platform. We're very philanthropic. We love charities and nonprofits, especially local ones. And to be able to let people know about upcoming events or fundraisers or projects that those companies or that those organizations are working on, that really they don't have the budgets. That's been a nice way to parlay our platform into helping others. So like you said, with sales, it's helping others. And I feel like that's how we've used social media. But it was not easy, because in the beginning I had some pushback, and that we were bragging, and that we were people were giving me a hard time. And I said, well, we're awesome. Why wouldn't I brag about that? Like, look at all this good that we're doing. We're building cool stuff. We're having fun. We're helping our community. That should be celebrated. So, but it wasn't like that. I had to really, really fight to continue and grow. But I think they're on board now. I don't know. Maybe all of them, but maybe there's one. That's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't win them all.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree. I think what you're doing at Holmberg is very significant. And really just construction companies just seeing it's okay to be open. It's okay to be transparent. One of the things I'm realizing just listening to other business advice from other industries is people are focused on hiding their trade secrets. I want you to know there are no trade secrets. It eventually will come out. Everybody will know. So why not set the bar, have the narrative that you want to convey, your message or your brand, and own it,
Right,
as opposed to have other people assume what it is and not be sure, and all these different things. So that's super great
right.
insight.
And also, why not, my take on it is, why not be the trendsetter?
Yeah.
So if this is and also, if everyone is doing this, then it's time to look and see, why are they doing it that way? And you can kind of sneak around the big dogs and do your own thing. And then you stand apart from the crowd, which has been really good for that.
Yeah. 100%. So now, specifically with marketing, marketing has evolved so much. There's a lot of
Mhm.
areas that fall under marketing, or that are really correlated with marketing. And one of them specifically has to do with culture, company culture. And
Yes.
so you had conveyed or alluded earlier that, Holmberg is open about the culture, what's going on, whether it's on projects, whether it's through philanthropic ventures, or whether it's through event marketing, all these different means. My question to you is, how have you navigated the integration of marketing and culture in Holmberg, and how are you finding ways to really bridge the gap between those two?
Mm. A lot of it is our events. We're known for our events, and because we take the time and we are happy to spend money to ensure people are having fun, especially, so we're on 2 floors of our office. So we've always tried to we've always tried to bring the field and the office together. And now we have 2 floors to bring together too, which is kind of interesting. So the only outside of meetings or passing each other in the halls, if you don't have something set up for people to interact and get to know each other, then it's harder to build relationships, especially now with COVID, you know. So, but we've been known for our events. We continue to do events. We're just doing them differently. But it's helped with retention. It's helped with morale. And then that, once people know that, you know, we're doing these events, then other people are giving us ideas, which helps bring the next one to fruition. So it's really, when people feel included, that's when the culture happens.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I like that. You guys do a really good job of marketing and showing that, whether it is golfing, whether it is, like I've seen some of your poker nights, stuff like
Oh
that, different
yeah.
ideas. So it's very evident, and honestly, it does look like a blast. So great job
Yeah.
there.
Thank
When
you.
we initially met, you had mentioned your affiliation with AMA, like you're very involved
Hmm.
with it, and you're also a mentor. I believe it's for two marketers within there.
Yes.
And so my
Hmm.
question really has to do around that, especially some of the conversations I've had over the course of this podcast have really been surrounded around like mentors and having the right people in your life to be able to guide and nudge you the right way in order to make the right decisions for your career. And so my question to you is, what role have mentoring younger marketers played in your development, not only as a marketing leader, but also as a business leader?
Hmm. Well, as I said before, when I was in college, not to date myself, but social media was MySpace, and that was it. There was no LinkedIn. I mean, it was just so different. So, and then something else that I missed out on was the SEO marketing. So I took some coding classes and things like that, but that was really sort of, that just really wasn't a thing yet. So I think the only way to learn from the new way of doing things is to get in touch with those people who have just recently taken those classes. And I can teach them more of the traditional roles of marketing and give them ideas on that and connect them with people who may be able to help them with their careers and then their businesses. And then, so we do quarterly check-ins with my mentees, and I always learn something. They always learn something from me, and it's just a nice. And now we're just doing phone interviews and things like, or phone calls and things like that. But um, it's nice to be connected, especially because they too are also the one-man marketing teams. So to have someone that they can trust and someone that they can bounce ideas off of before they take it to leadership is kind of a nice thing that I'm able to provide. And then they're in return teaching me about, um, alt words and all of these kinds of things to enhance our website and then just kind of have a better presence online. So I've appreciated what I've learned very much from them.
That's awesome. Now, it's always encouraging to see the two-way, street. I had one mentor for a little bit, and it was similar. He was advising me on business and teaching me a lot about business, and I was able to share with him more of the relevant topics that were happening that maybe he wasn't too aware of because he is an executive, and that isn't really his focus. But just being able to have that mentorship where both are pouring into the relationship, both are learning, both are winning at the same time, I think is always a fruitful and life-giving relationship.
Absolutely.
So
Hmm.
you're big on networking. You have tons of photos, I would say pre-COVID, with a lot of different individuals, whether it is
Hmm.
general contractor executives or just people from other, from within the industry, just really at a lot of events. You're big on business development. That's a big part of your job description, regardless of everything else that you encompass within your role. So my question is, and you also have a background in the financial sector. What types of people do well in construction and marketing and construction? Because it's I would say, I would
Mhm.
argue it's not for everybody. It's so
Right.
sometimes it is hard. Sometimes there are difficult, there are roadblocks you have to go through. But what types of people, given a lot of other marketers, being an AMA
Mhm.
and just in construction, what types of people
Yeah.
do well in marketing and construction?
I think, well, to generalize construction, it is male introverts that are running it. So the fact that I'm a female extrovert helps with that because I will go up to anybody and start a conversation. I am that girl on the plane who you sit next to and you're like, oh God, here she goes. We are expected to be the life of the party, the social ones. Um, there is, you know, we're expected to wear the hot dog costume at the event. Um, so you have to be willing to do that. And you have to also know when to not take yourself too seriously and then when to, so you have to be really flexible with your, when you're working on tasks and things like that. Um, and networking is a big part of it because it's, we're not, you're not going to go on to Google and search mechanical contractor in Bellevue. That's not how construction, with the large commercial scale projects that we work on happens. It's all relationships. And the only way to get that started is to meet people and figure out how you can help them, how they can help you, just kind of be the concierge of your world and talk about everything. I try to talk about everything except construction, honestly, because that's not, once people are at a networking event, they've put their work, behind them, and they're there for the wine, they're there for the appetizers, they're there for the speaker, whatever the case may be. So don't bring up work. That's my number one networking tip. If they bring it up, sure, you can engage, but marketing's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to, I don't know, I feel very compelled to follow in the role that I see marketing in.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. That's super interesting too. Just highlighting what you mentioned, how, and I experienced this too, like being an in-house marketer for a construction company is so it's a very introverted industry. So
mhm,
ironically, a traditionally introverted role like marketing, which is more introverted, I would say when you compare it to sales in a bigger organization,
right.
you have to be more out. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, to be more vocal, to be a little bit more extroverted, because it
Mhm.
is that much, like that's how much introversion happens in construction.
Exactly. Right. And then if you're the same, we have to be different than them. So if you're the same personality, then you're just going to get lost in the shuffle. And I really accredit it to being a cheerleader. I think a lot of what I'm able to do stems from that, where you want to get people going, you're trying to make them laugh, you're trying to entertain them. And so I've just carried that on and made a career out of it, basically. So it's good. Mhm.
Awesome. Well, cool. So I'm going to ask the last question before we go into the final part of this conversation, the rapid fire
Okay.
questions. And the last question I had before we transition is, if you had a chance today to sit down with Angela, fresh
Mm,
graduate out of Wazoo marketing, let's take it back to, like you mentioned, you didn't want to date yourself, but MySpace days.
yeah.
What advice would you give her based off of everything you've learned and experienced up to this point?
Hmm. I would say ask more questions. I think a lot of fresh grads they want to look like they know everything, right? And like, I've got it, boss, don't worry about me. And then you don't have it because you're new. So kind of forgive yourself for being new, have some grace and ask more questions to get better information back. And I would say, well, continuing education is huge. You're never going to be done learning marketing because it's changing every day. It's especially with the pandemic and how to do things, and so be prepared to continue to learn. And then I would lastly tell myself, trust your instincts. You're onto it. You're doing okay. You're fine. So Believing in yourself and your ideas is huge. Yeah.
Great advice. Love it. So now I'm going to transition us into the last part of this conversation, which is the rapid fire question. So my first question to you in the rapid fire questions is, what's your current favorite marketing tool or software that you're using?
Ooh, favorite marketing software. I would say Canva. Canva's great. It's the poor man's Adobe Creative. There's not as steep of a learning curve. It's not as expensive per month. And it has great templates that are already sized for different formats like LinkedIn posts, flyers. You can make t-shirt designs, and you plug and play your brand guidelines and you're good to go. So I've really enjoyed using Canva for that.
Yeah, Canva's great. I actually had a recent marketing agency owner, say the same exact thing, and
Oh, good. Yeah.
it's a phenomenal tool. And they actually were recently valued at a $6 billion company, so it's
Oh
not
my
too small.
gosh.
So they're growing, which
No,
is
that's
awesome.
amazing. I'm happy to be part of their success because they're helping me be successful. So that's wonderful to hear. They're doing well.
Cool. Well,
Mhm.
my next question to you is, what has been your favorite online marketing course that you've taken up to this point?
I recently took, during the quarantine, I took a consumer behavior refresher course on edx.org, and they have a ton of free or like seriously reduced online programs, and it's self-paced. And they have various lengths of time for each course. That one was great to kind of, to get excited about learning again and see how things have changed from when I last took that class. And it's changed a lot. So, and then there's always the things that remain static and evergreen, but it's neat to kind of tap back into that mindset. Mhm.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'll put a link to edx.com in the description below. So now, what has been your favorite marketing or business book that you've read up to this point?
There's one called The Ideal Team Player, and I forget the author's name,
Patrick
but it's
Lencioni.
yes. Okay, have you read that?
Yeah, it's a
Oh
great book.
yeah,
Great book.
it's good. And it's all about being uh, hungry, humble, and smart. To have all three of those elements in place, how you have better conversations, more meaningful time, and it just, yeah, it's a business and professional or personal book for sure.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a great book. Got a lot of takeaways of it as far as like, learning how to work together, like you'd mentioned, whether it's within the context of a business or even within relationships, whether it's marriage or friendships. I think all of it is directly correlated. So that's a good book there. My last
Yeah.
question in this rapid fire questions is, who is your favorite marketer, whether it's somebody you've worked side by side with or somebody you've admired from afar?
Hmm. I would say Gary Vaynerchuk. He is he produces content daily, and on each platform it's different. So he's real. He cuts the BS. He doesn't let you get away with excuses. And I saw him live a couple years ago, and it was so inspiring. And I can still remember him saying about Instagram, for example, you can have 30 hashtags per post.
Mhm.
And he said, why wouldn't you have 30? If you every single post you do, you need to have 30 hashtags. There's no excuse. Max it out, get the most potential reaches for that post, or else it's not worth your time. I was like, yes, duh. Why am I only doing 10? So it's those little things like that that stick with you. And his whole thing is just to maximize the platform you're on and keep going until LinkedIn tells you you're out of in-mails or
Mhm.
you're out of hashtags. Just keep pushing until you can really successfully say you did everything you could from a marketing perspective for that.
Yeah, that's great. Gary Vee is a great marketer. I would argue he's probably been the most. When I ask all my guests this question, he's probably been the top guy for, I would say, probably 10 out of the 15 conversations I've had.
Oh, good.
So it's great.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of great things. He's
Mhm.
actually one of the ones that encouraged me in the process of creating micro content for this type of conversation with my podcast, because like not when people just post the long form, hey, this is my podcast, watch the whole thing. Not everybody
Right.
will watch it, so it's like creating little micro pieces of content, which is really inspired by Gary Vee. So that way you
Oh, cool.
re-engage people, so they, instead of watching a 40-minute video, they would be more committed to watching a 1, 2, 3 minute video, just to get a gist of what the conversation was like. So he's a great marketer for sure.
Hmm.
So now, if people are interested in learning more about what you do or connecting with you, what are some of the platforms you engage on the most?
I would say LinkedIn. That's really where I'm on quite a bit. And it's Angela White. And then I'm happy to answer emails. My email is angela@holmbergco.com. And I love talking marketing. This is my passion. This is my life. I'm a marketing nerd. And I'm happy to help and answer questions and be a supportive marketing person for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Angela, for coming on and sharing your knowledge, experience, resources, and really just your career with me and the marketing community.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, and thanks for having me on your show.